The whole thing felt impossible. Alex Vance had simply vanished. He was young, healthy, and just starting his life, but he chose to drop off the face of the earth, which, for him, meant the tiny, dusty town of Aethel. One day, he was laughing, happy, and definitely making a scene at the Silver Taproom. The next morning, he was gone. His boss waited, his jeep wasn't around, and no matter how much they searched, Alex was nowhere. Because he was, technically, a civil servant, the entire, massive bureaucracy of the Westland Territories paused for a brief, tiny second to look for him. They drained the water tanks and sent panic texts out to the big cities, 1,200 miles away. Nothing. Alex was a ghost. His space was empty. And then the enormous, unstoppable government machine moved on. Alex Vance, the actual person, became the mystery, the thing people talked about at the taproom for a month before forgetting him completely. His possessions were sold, and his cute bungalow stood empty. A few months later, when the brutal summer heat was finally winding down, my friend Jax Sterling, who worked for Territorial Security, rented this place from the local landlord. This was back when he was deep into studying local life, before his whole thing with Zoe Harper. Jax was definitely odd. He was totally unpredictable. He always had food, but he had no set meal times. He just ate whatever was available while standing up or walking around, which, frankly, isn't healthy. His decor was half his guns and outdoor gear, and the other half was for him and his dog, Tia. Tia was a gigantic, muscular rescue pit bull. She understood Jax better than anyone. If she saw something that threatened the general peace of the territories, she'd race back and communicate the situation to Jax. Then, almost instantly, someone else was facing fines or prison time. The locals genuinely thought Tia was some kind of familiar spirit, and they treated her with respect born purely from hate and fear. Tia got her own bedroom, complete with a bed, a thick custom blanket, and a water bowl. She once saved Jax's life during a tense mission. Now, she wore a silver collar and had a monogram on her very delicate, double-thick blanket. She was glued to Jax. Soon after Jax moved in, I was passing through Aethel for work, and since the town's lodging was full, I crashed at his bungalow. It was a solid house, well thatched. The canvas ceiling looked clean and neat. You'd never guess that above that fabric was a dark, narrow, three-cornered cave where rats and all kinds of gross things lived. Tia met me on the porch with a bark as deep as a church bell, putting her paws on my shoulder to show she was happy. Jax threw together a chaotic lunch, then bolted out on business. It was just me and Tia. The heat had given way to the warm, suffocating humidity of the rain. The air was heavy, but the rain was falling hard, creating a blue mist when it hit the ground. I sat on the back patio as the light faded, listening to the water roar off the eaves, scratching the miserable heat rash that covered me. Tia came out, put her head in my lap, and looked seriously upset. She felt it too. I gave her biscuits with my tea, needing the small comfort of her company. The rooms behind me were already dark. I could smell Jax's gear, and I definitely didn't want to go inside. My assistant came to the patio, soaking wet, and said a gentleman had called. I sighed and went into the dark living room, telling him to bring the lamps. I thought I saw a shape by the window, but when the light arrived, there was only the driving rain outside and the heavy, wet smell of the earth. I grumbled at my assistant and went back to the patio to talk to Tia. She had wandered back out into the downpour. It took me a long time to coax her back in, even with sugary treats. Jax got home, soaking wet, just before dinner. The first thing he asked was, "Has anyone called?" I apologized and explained my assistant's mistake, suggesting maybe some random person had tried to call on Jax but changed his mind. Jax ordered dinner without comment. Later, around 9, we were both ready for bed. Tia, who had been lying under the table, got up and walked straight out into the pelting rain on the patio. I was honestly shocked. I looked at Jax, expecting him to drag her back inside. He just smiled this weird, unhappy smile, like he was about to tell you something seriously messed up about his family. "She has done this every night since I moved in here," he said. Let her go. I felt a flash of sympathy for Jax. It's annoying to be completely dismissed by your own dog. But I didn't say anything, because Tia was Jax's problem. Tia camped out near my window. The lightning was a cold blue flash across the sky. Looking through my thin blinds, I could see the massive dog standing perfectly still, her fur raised stiffly, looking intensely focused, like a wire drawn tight. In the short pauses between thunder, I tried to sleep, but I was suddenly convinced that someone desperately needed my attention. Whoever it was, they were trying to whisper my name, but their voice was barely a dry breath. Then the thunder stopped, and Tia went into the garden and began howling at the low moon. I heard it again. Someone trying the lock on my door, footsteps wandering all over the house, and heavy breathing on the patio. Just as I was finally falling asleep, I thought I heard a desperate pounding right above my head. I shot up and ran into Jax's room, asking if he was ill or if he had called for me. He was half-dressed, smoking his pipe in bed. "I figured you'd come eventually," he said. "Was I walking around the house just now?" I told him he had been stomping around the main rooms. He laughed and told me to go back to sleep. I did, but through all my messy dreams, I was absolutely sure I was failing someone by not helping them. I didn't know what they wanted, but there was a sense of them fluttering, whispering, fumbling at locks, lurking, reproaching me for being lazy. I spent 2 more days there. Jax went to work, leaving me alone with Tia. During the day, we were fine. But as soon as twilight hit, Tia and I moved to the back patio and huddled together for company. We were technically alone, but the house felt uncomfortably full. I never saw the tenant, but I would see the curtains quivering right after he passed through. I'd hear the bamboo chairs creak as if a weight had just left them. And if I went inside to get a book, I felt someone waiting in the shadows of the front porch for me to leave. Tia made the twilight hour worse. She would glare into the dark rooms, every hair on her back raised, tracking something invisible. She never stepped inside the rooms, but her eyes moved with intense interest, and that was enough to keep me out. Only when my assistant came to turn on the bright lamps would she finally come in, sitting on her haunches, watching an invisible extra person move behind my shoulder. I decided I was done. I explained to Jax that I was moving to the Taproom Hotel. I said I loved his hospitality, his gear, but I really didn't like his house or the vibe. He listened to the whole thing, then gave a tired, knowing smile. "Stay," he said. "You need to see what this is." "Everything you just told me? I've known it since I moved in." "Stay and wait. Tia already left me." "Are you leaving too?" I'd already been through one insane, life-altering event with him. Jax was a magnet for bad luck. I told him as clearly as I could that I really liked him, and I'd be happy to see him during the day, but I was not sleeping under his roof again. This was after dinner, after Tia had gone to the patio. "Honestly, I don't blame you at all," Jax said, looking straight up at the ceiling fabric. "Look at that." The tails of 2 brown snakes were hanging down between the fabric and the wall. They cast long, unsettling shadows in the lamplight. "If you are afraid of snakes, of course," Jax said. "I am terrified of snakes." "You seriously need to fix your roof," I said. "Hand me a rod, and we'll poke them down." "They'll hide up in the beams," Jax replied. "I can't stand snakes over my head. I'm going into the roof. If I shake them down, stand ready with the cleaning rod and break their backs." I didn't want any part of this, but I took the rod and waited while Jax brought a ladder. The snake tails disappeared quickly. We could hear the dry, rushing scuttle of long bodies moving over the loose canvas ceiling. Jax took a lamp. I tried to warn him about how dangerous it was to hunt snakes up there. "Don't be ridiculous," Jax said. "They'll stay by the walls. The cool brick is the perfect temperature for them." He reached up to the corner of the ceiling fabric and ripped it from the wall. With a sickening tearing sound, he shoved his head through the opening into the pitch-black triangle of the roof. I gritted my teeth and lifted the rod, ready for anything to drop. "Huh!" Jax's voice boomed and echoed in the roof space. "There's enough room for a whole extra floor up here, and holy cow, Someone's using it. Snakes? I whispered from below. No. It's a buffalo. Hand me the last 2 pieces of the big fishing rod. I'll prod it. It's lying right on the main central beam. I handed him the rod. This is an awful nest for owls and serpents. No wonder the snakes are here, Jax said, climbing deeper inside. I saw his elbow shove the rod hard. Get out of there, whoever you are. Heads up below. It's falling. I saw the ceiling fabric almost in the center of the room bulge with a heavy shade pushing down, toward the lamp on the table. I snatched the lamp out of the way and stumbled back. Then the cloth completely tore free from the walls, ripping open and shooting something onto the table that I absolutely refused to look at until Jax slid down the ladder and stood next to me. He didn't say much. He just picked up the loose end of the tablecloth and threw it over the remains on the table. It looks like, he said, putting the lamp back down, our friend Alex Vance has come home. Oh, you want to try that? Something moved under the cloth. A small snake wriggled out, and Jax immediately crushed its spine with the rod. I was too sickened to speak. Jax poured a drink and thought deeply. The bundle under the cloth was silent. Is it Alex? I finally whispered. Jax quickly pulled the cloth back for a second, then dropped it. It is Alex, he confirmed. And his throat is cut from ear to ear. We both said the same thing, quietly. That's why he was whispering around the house. Tia, outside, began to howl furiously. A moment later, her massive nose pushed the dining room door open. She sniffed and stood still. The ripped ceiling fabric hung down almost to the table. Tia walked in and sat down, her teeth bared, staring at Jax. This is bad, old lady, Jax said. Men don't climb into their roofs to die, and they definitely don't seal the ceiling back up. We need to think. Let's think somewhere else, I pleaded. Great idea! Turn off the lamps. We'll go to my room. I didn't touch the lamps. I raced into Jax's room first and let him handle the darkness. He followed, and we lit cigarettes. Jax focused. I smoked like crazy because I was terrified. Alex is back, Jax stated. The question is, who killed him? Don't talk. I have a theory. When I took this place, I kept most of Alex's staff. Alex was harmless, right? I nodded, though the heap on the table had not looked harmless at all. If I call all the servants in, they'll form a circle and lie perfectly. What do you suggest? Call them in one by one, I said. They'll panic and tip off the others. We need to separate them. Do you think your assistant knows anything? Maybe, but I doubt it. He's only been here for 2 days. What's your theory? I can't figure it out yet. How did the guy get behind the ceiling fabric? A heavy cough came from outside the door. Zamir, Jax's attendant, was awake and ready to put his master to bed. Come in, Jax said. It's warm tonight, isn't it? Zamir, a massive, 6-foot man in a green turban, agreed, adding that more rain would come soon and bring relief. If God wills it, Jax said, pulling off his boots. It occurs to me, Zamir, that I have worked you relentlessly since you started. When was that? Has the Great One forgotten? It was when Alex Vance so secretly left for the mainland without a word, and I came into your honored service. And Alex Vance went to the mainland? It is said among those who were his servants. And you'll work for him again when he returns? Certainly, sir. He was a good master and looked after his people. That is true. I am very tired, but I go hunting tomorrow. Give me the small, sharp rifle I use for swift deer. It's in that case. Zamir handed the gun parts to Jax, who assembled them with a loud yawn. Then he reached down, took a bullet, and slipped it into the rifle's chamber. And Alex Vance left for the mainland secretly. That is very strange, Zamir, isn't it? What do I know of white men's ways, Great One? Very little, truly. But you'll know more soon. It has reached me that Alex Vance has returned from his long journey, and he is waiting for his servant in the next room. Sir. The lamp reflected off the barrels of the rifle as Jax pointed it directly at Zamir's chest. Go and look, Jax ordered. Take the lamp. Your master is tired, and he waits for you. Go. Zamir picked up the lamp and walked into the dining room, Jax following, almost touching him with the muzzle of the rifle. Zamir looked first at the terrifying darkness above the ceiling fabric, then at the writhing snake, and finally, his face turning a dead gray, at the thing under the tablecloth. Did you see? Jax asked after a heavy pause. I have seen. I am helpless in the white man's hands. What will the presents do? Hang you within the month. What else? For killing him? No, sir, consider. He walked among us, his servants, and cast his eyes upon my 4-year-old child. He cursed him, and in 10 days my child died of a fever, my child. What did Alex Vance say? He said he was a handsome child, and patted him on the head. Therefore my child died. Therefore I killed Alex Vance, sir, at twilight, when he came home and was sleeping. Therefore I dragged him into the roof beams and sealed the opening. The Great One knows everything. I am the Great One's servant. Jax looked at me over the rifle. In the local language, he said, You are a witness to this confession? He has killed him. Zamir stood, pale as ash. The need to justify his actions took over quickly. I am trapped, he said, but the crime was his. He put an evil eye on my child, and I killed and hid him. Only those served by demons. He glared at Tia, who sat completely still in front of him. Only they could have found out what I did. It was clever. But you should have tied him to the beam with a rope. Now you will hang by a rope. Officer. A sleepy security officer answered, followed by another. Take him to the station, Jax ordered. We have a case. Do I hang then? Zamir asked, still looking at the ground, making no move to escape. If the sun shines or the water runs, yes, Jax said. Zamir took a long step back, shuddered, and froze. Go, Jax commanded. No, I go very quickly, Zamir said. Look, I am already a dead man. He lifted his foot. Clinging to his little toe was the head of the half-killed snake, its fangs locked in a death grip. I come from a respected land-holding family, Zamir said, rocking where he stood. It would be a disgrace to go to a public gallows, so I choose this way. Remember that the sir's shirts are all correct, and there is extra soap. My child was cursed, and I killed the wizard. Why did you seek to kill me with the rope? My honor is saved and I die. He died at the end of an hour, the victim of the small brown carite snake. The officers carried him and the thing under the tablecloth away. All were needed to explain the disappearance of Alex. This, Jax said very calmly, as he climbed into bed, is called the modern world. Did you hear what that man said? I heard, I replied. Alex made a mistake, Jax concluded. Simply because he didn't understand the nature of the local people and the coincidence of a small seasonal fever. Zamir had been with him for 4 years. I shivered, realizing my own assistant had been with me for the exact same amount of time. When I went to my room, my assistant was waiting, expressionless, to pull off my boots. What happened to Zamir? I asked. He was bitten by a snake and died. The rest the sir knows, was the answer. And how much of this matter have you known? As much as could be learned from one coming in at twilight seeking satisfaction. Gently, sir. Let me pull off those boots. I had just settled into an exhausted sleep when I heard Jax shout from his side of the house. Tia has come back to her spot. And she had. The massive dog was couched peacefully on her own bed, while in the next room, the idle, empty, canvas ceiling fabric swayed over the table.